What a day here at South Boston Speedway for race number 200 of the Smart Modified Tour. I'm Blaise Dillner. He's Bob Dillner. Another great car count, another great fan turnout. How impressed are you with the series thus far this season?
Super impressed. The Smart Modified Tour has revitalized modified racing in the South. I mean, it is electric. The feel here tonight was unbelievable. Two back-to-back great races. Florence Motor Speedway was really good, but it didn't have the absolute action that Caraway did last week with the Warrior 100, and then this race here tonight with the Flying VA Classic. I think modified racing is special because that car looks unlike any other car out there. And we're in the middle of late model stock car territory. So when the Smart Modified Tour powered by Pace-O-Matic comes to town, people want to see it.
Now, a lot of great storylines to dive into. Let's start with Caleb Heady. Drew a fast time for the second time this season. Invert brought him back to 8th, but a little scared coming out of turn 4 during that race. Take me through that.
Yeah, I think he had to check his underpants after that one. Matt Hirschman trying to come through the field, attacking Brian Lofton, but Caleb Heady led a good chunk of this race, and then he was coming through the field, and all of a sudden he gets up into the top 5, and boom, Matt Hirschman breaks and slows down dramatically, and cars are going everywhere to work their way around him. And Caleb did an evasive maneuver and darted to the inside and came like this close from walloping the entrance to the pit road where the wall is and the water barrels are. And I talked to him after the race, and he said a few things in the cockpit of the race car because it was scary for him. But he did a great job. And if you think about it, two unfortunate circumstances have taken him out of contention for wins this year. What we just told you about here at South Boston, and then if you remember back to Florence, where he also won the Pace-O-Matic Pole Award, he had led a bunch of laps there, came down pit road with 7 laps to go, and got trapped by a slower car also pitting at that time, and kind of took him out of contention. He lost a bunch of spots on pit road. So Caleb Heady could already be a 2-time winner in the Smart Mods this year.
Now, talking about taking drivers out of contention, Carson Lofton and all the wreck all stemmed from Bobby Meisner Jr. there, but a lot of strong drivers early on. Chances were hurt there for the rest of the day.
Yeah, Bobby Meisner Jr. had another good run to go on. Left rear cut down. Him and Burt Myers were talking after the race a little bit about some contact earlier in the race. That was a fun conversation to listen to. But Carson Lofton is another kid. Of course, his dad, very strong here tonight. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But Carson was teasing his dad after qualifying because his dad, Brian, sucked after qualifying 16th quick. And Carson qualified in the top 8, was in the redraw and a great starting spot. And then, unfortunately, reversal of fortune in the race.
Now let's get right into the biggest story of the day. Going back to Florence, when Matt Hirschman got to the back bumper of that leader with only a few laps to go, he got the job done, and it's not often that he doesn't do that. Brian Lofton was able to hold him off and gain a win here today.
Yeah, it appears as though, they lost fuel pressure in the 60, and that's why he just slowed down dramatically, did Matt Hirschman, and he was just about to do the Matt Hirschman thing and go on the attack late in the race. And honestly, I think Brian Lofton was in trouble because Matt Hirschman was that good after running at Richmond, having a police escort. Thank you to Senator Stanley for setting up that police escort. Got Bobby Labonte and a couple other people, including Matt Hirschman, over here. But Hirschman was ready to roll for his second victory of the year, and that fuel pressure just crushed his hopes here today. And that basically gave the win to Brian Lofton. And Lofton and that Shady Grady team, great strategy. Pitted really early in this one, and then just came and kind of just coaxed themselves into the win. They stayed there and they went on the attack when they needed to, and they held off some good competitors. He was very strong. First win of the season for Brian Lofton, 9th win of his Smart Modified Tour career. And I was really happy to see Brian Lofton win because this was the Flying VA Classic. It honored Ray Hendrick, one of the all-time greatest modified drivers in history of the cars that live by the grace of God in 600 horsepower. And he is a veteran, a long-time Southern Modified competitor, and he knows the importance of what Ray Hendrick did for modified racing, not just in the South, but all over the East Coast. And he said it was an honor to take that victory lap with Roy Hendrick, driving his dad Ray Hendrick's car, circling around South Boston Speedway, which a lot of people consider South Boston the birthplace of modified racing in the South.
A very cool tribute for sure. And Brian Lofton didn't even have the best qualifying effort, but as Tim Brown said earlier in the day, it doesn't really matter where you qualify in this race, as Bobby Labonte and Matt Hirschman, I'm sure, starting from the back, thought they had their chance to win as well. With pit strategy and taking that extra tire and stuff, it just makes it so cool. Whether you're starting first, whether you're starting 22nd, you legitimately feel like you have a shot to win the whole race.
And it bit Jeremy Gerstner. He said he got a little too cocky inside the race car, led a bunch of laps, led the most laps in this race, but then ran out of rubber basically and spun in turn 4 and can never rebound from it. So I think that's what's really interesting. And by the way, you mentioned Tim Brown. The cool story about Tim Brown here this weekend, he had a horrific wreck in turn number 3 2 years ago at this racetrack, and he had not been back to this racetrack since then. Tim really doesn't talk much about that wreck, but I did talk to him here today, and he said it was kind of weird coming back here. He said a lot of rough feelings from that wreck and everything that played out afterwards, but he said, man, I just got to get over it. I want to be part of the Smart Modified Tour, and coming here, he was looking forward to the race. Had a top 10 run in his first race back since that big wreck in turn 3. So I'm proud of Tim Brown and that Jerry Hunt Super Center team, the 25 team, and what they did here today.
Now, closing up things here post-race, Burt Myers, another strong run. He's led so many laps, another podium effort for him. The Smart Modified Tour will be back in action next at Hickory. Does he get the job done then?
Well, here's what's funny about Burt Myers. I was teasing him. I said, listen, you've led 87 laps coming into this race, so you've led more laps than anybody. How about instead of leading the most laps, you just lead the important one and win the race? Because that sounds like a good idea. And he said, well, we interviewed him. He said, and you'll hear that on Short Track Life, he said he was actually thinking about that a little bit. Some guy told me not to lead all the laps, so I was trying to bide my time. And he did a good job, but he said the car wasn't totally right all day long. And like I said, you'll hear that interview on Short Track Life. And Burt Myers is going to win a bunch of races, I think, if they keep on going the way they are. I believe he's the point leader once again on the Smart Modified Tour going into that race at Hickory in 2 weeks, and that's going to be a blast.
Now, with 3 races in the books for the season thus far, you have defending champion Caleb Heady with many strong runs, including Burt Myers. Who stands out to you going on for the rest of the season?
Only Burt Myers right now. Brandon Ward's been good, but I expected him to be, top 3, top 4 here today. He slipped just a little bit. Still had a good top 10 run, but he loses that point lead. Remember, he was only a point over Burt Myers coming to this one. And Burt Myers keeps on racking up a lot of the bonus points that are awarded in this series as well. So I think those 2 drivers head and shoulders above the field. If Caleb Heady can get some good luck, he'd be right in the thick of things. But now Brian Lofton has won a race. That's going to be interesting. I think Carson Lofton's going to win a race this year, maybe 2, who knows. He's had some bad luck as well, despite some good runs. The competition is up here. Bobby Labonte, Tim Brown. There are so many people. Look at Jonathan Cash tonight. What a run by that 39. I mean, he's got a lot of experience here. Late model stock cars, E-Series, Pro Cup, you name it. I'm talking fast. But Jonathan Cash was fast here tonight, and he had a good run in the top 10 as well.
Now, moving on for the Smart Mods as well, we had the late model stocks in action for 2 doubleheader features. Peyton Sellers was able to win the first race. The second race got caught up in a little incident on lap 1, but still was able to rebound for a podium finish there.
Yeah, it's good to see, that guy that has won so many, I think 6 track titles in late model stock cars and a national championship to boot with the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series. But the kid in the 5, what's his name, Carter Langley?
Yep.
Man, so impressive. 4 races so far, I believe, here at South Boston for late model stock cars, maybe 5. I can't remember. A season is already wearing on here in the South, but he's got 3 wins already. And this is a kid that I didn't know a lot about. And I asked Doc Love, who is one of the track announcers here, and he was telling me a little bit about him. And then, Michael Diaz, who runs Southern National Motorsports Park, was texting me during the broadcast tonight, said, hey, man, he's a go-kart specialist now over here in, the late model stock car ranks. And his home track is Southern National Motorsports Park there in Kenly, North Carolina. So he's looking good. And if he keeps this up, honestly, he could be a Cinderella story for the NASCAR World All-American Series National Championship quest.
For sure. Tour Type Modifieds, late model stock cars. We love it all here at Short Track Life. We hope you enjoyed our coverage here today. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, we were supposed to say that at the beginning of this video. Your brother, my son Luke, always tells us that. Subscribe if you don't want to miss any of the videos we put up, and make sure you click that bell as well, and like and comment on what else you want to see from Short Track Life.